What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to episode 14 of the Run Your Race Show with your host, Akeem.
And Chanelle.
Hope each of you are having a fantastic day so far. We are recording this on Memorial Day. So happy Memorial Day to each and every single one of you. And don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel before you leave the YouTube app. Be sure to let us know your thoughts on each episode. We are going to be doing things a little bit different this time around. Rather than giving a performer of the week, going through the weekend recap, we're going to still do that, but do things a little bit different. This time around, we are going to do a top 10 performance of the weekend. And as we were deciding which individual is inserted in which slots, if it was up to me, she would do 10 and I would do 10. But sometimes in life you got to compromise. So think it's only right that we start at number 10. Number 10 performer of the weekend goes to Miss Cameron Rogers. Hammer throw. She threw a mark of 77.76 meters. That puts her number 2 on the world stage right now. So when you see that mark, what does it make you think of? We're not really throwers, but that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And to see Diamond League record, that's what impressed me. I'm like, she has to make this list to be the furthest ever thrown in a Diamond League. We cannot give Miss Rogers her props. So yeah, that's why she made the top 10 for me.
Shout out to you, Miss Rogers. Number 9, Rosemary Chukwuma, 100-meter sprinter. Well, she does on the 2 as well, too. But she's on number 9 on the list because there were a lot of times that were a little bit wind-dated. But this was a wind legal time of 10.88 seconds. Impressive. What do you think of this time here?
Yeah, I mean, she beat a very strong field at the West Regionals for NCAAs. And for those of you who don't know, this past weekend was regionals for NCAA runners. And this is how they qualify for NCAA nationals in a couple of weeks out in Oregon. And these runners, they go there, they're not too much worried about time, but it's all about placement at regionals. So when you do run fast, it's an additional bonus. So I thought she looked really good. She beat a quality field and her time is extremely respectable. So,
I mean, to put things into perspective, right? Like I ran 11:03 in 10th grade, so this is a blazing time right here. It's not. When you break certain thresh barriers, breaking 11 seconds for the women is a barrier that all sprinters want to get to. So 10:88, very impressive time, and she will be looking to build off of that going into NCAAs in about 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So Rosemary Chukwuma, she is number 9 on our list. Number 8, another collegiate athlete, Mackenzie Long. 10:92, then she came back, 22:10. These are both wind legal times. What do you think about this performance right here in the weekend that Miss Mackenzie Long had?
Now, I overlooked this. I wasn't going to add Mackenzie, but then you said we can't not add her because when you double like this and run 2 extremely fast times, you can't not add someone like this to the list. And I say, yeah, you're right. We got to put Miss Long on this list. She looked good. Again, she beat the top NCAA athletes in the country. So respect to her. She'll be going to NCAAs in both the 100 and the 200. And she has a target on her back now. So
I think Miss Long is definitely a threat to make this Olympic team if she can stay healthy. I think she's that good. I mean, look at these times right here. She's been running a lot, but man, that 22:10, that's really, really impressive. And I believe she has the world lead in the 200. I could be wrong in that, but if I am, please correct me in the comment section below. What'd she run? 22?
Oh, something.
No, I actually think it's Mackenzie Long.
Oh,
we'll come back to that. But shout out to her. She's at number 8 on our list. We keep it moving to number 7. going back to the collegiates, man, they have another fantastic season. Miss Jada Ross from Oregon in the shot put through a collegiate record of 20.01 meters. What do you think about this one right here? What does it make you think of? Again, we are not field athletes, but we're appreciative of the hard work and when you see the fruits of your labor come to fruition.
Yeah, I think I read that she's the first collegiate to ever throw over 20 meters.
Wow.
So shout out to her. Had to include her collegiate record, and she may shock some people and make this U.S. team for the shot put. So we got to keep our eyes on Miss Ross.
And when you're throwing like that, you're not under the radar anymore. You can't just creep up on people. They see you. They know you're coming. And this is a great, great way to move into, again, that NCAA season where you want to – championships where you want to be throwing a little bit further, running a little bit faster, jumping a little bit further. This is a lot of momentum going in her favor. Let's keep it pushing to number 6. This time it's not just one person. Is 4 women. Talking about Arkansas, the women broke the 4x4 NCAA record, 3:21.92. I believe the record was 3:21.93, and they just, dipped under that. That team consisted of Rosie Effiong, Nikisha Price, Kaylin Brown, and Amber Anning. We were watching this live. What did you think about this performance?
I thought it was extremely impressive because they were by themselves. There was nobody pushing them. And as I was looking at the clock, I was like, why is the announcer not telling us what the collegiate record is? Because this has to be close. And eventually, a few minutes after the race, he announced that it was a collegiate record. So it was very, very impressive. I think they can do it again. I know they can do it again, just with some more people running closer to them. So excited to see what they do at NCAAs in a couple of weeks.
Shout out to that announcer, man. He was keeping that thing live. His energy was right. The audience, not so much, but shout out to him, and it just makes you think when you see this record, it's like, what would happen if they were fresh? These women were running 2s and 4s. So this was very, very, very impressive. I think somebody is going to break the collegiate record again at NCAA championships, especially if they did it by themselves. So they come in at number 6 on the performance of the week this week. Number 5, man, it's going back to a field event, and it's hard to ignore Mr. Joe Kovacs in the shot put, 23.13 meters. What do you think about this one? Because this man was feeling something. He was throwing like he felt disrespected. That's the type of energy that he was putting forth with that shot put, man. What did you think about this one?
Yeah, I think the remainder of our top 5 all come from that pre-Diamond League, which we got to watch, and it was a good Diamond League. It was entertaining, and Joe definitely added to that entertainment. I know Joe from when we were in high school in Pennsylvania, so what impresses me the most about him is his consistency, because he's been dominating since we were in high school. So for him to still be out there making teams, throwing world leads, winning medals, he's a joy to watch. He seems like an awesome person, and I'm just happy that he's still out there dominating.
He's PA strong.
He's PA strong.
PA strong, Mr. Kovacs. This is going to make USA Championships even that much more. What's the word I want to use? I don't just want to use exciting, because that's always, I'm going to say more exhilarating, because Joe Kovacs has been coming in, second to another name, Mr. Ryan Krauser. But Joe Kovacs is number 1 in the world right now, and we know how good Ryan Krauser is. But Joe Kovacs is coming into this one, especially going into U.S. trials. You got to come and get me this time around. I'm not just coming for you. So, I mean, anytime you can throw, I think he threw 23 a couple times at this meet. So maybe he considers this, just another training day. And if that's the case, man, it's going to be crazy when he's actually, not loaded up. But beautiful performance, big throws, big energy. Great job, Mr. Kovacs. Number 5 on our list. Number 4, we keep it pushing from the same meet. Miss Sha'carri Richardson opened up her individual season in the 100 meters, and she came out and ran 10:83. What did you think about this performance?
I really think she looked great. I don't know how to analyze the 100 as well as you, but from what I could see as an 800-meter runner, her start was good and her top end speed, it was just amazing. And I think for her first 100 meter of the season, she ran a couple 200s maybe last month or earlier this month, but 100 is her bread and butter. And when we were talking off camera, you said, no one in the world has as much pressure as Sha'carri Richardson right now. For her to show up and beat a quality field and open up her season in 10:83, you were really impressed. So I was like, okay, I'll take your word for it, because it looked impressive for me. But to hear your side, I was like, yeah, she has to be in the top 5.
Yeah, I think, in sports, we can only judge them off what they look like in the last time out. And when she was over there running 200, she did not look great. But she's got the type of talent where whenever she chooses to lock in and she's healthy, I guess she's just hard to beat. She's a world champion for a reason. And when she runs every single time, there's a level of pressure that's on her, and she has to carry that. So we didn't know what she was going to look like in the 100 yet. But for her to come out and put together a time like this in her first race, and it looked like she could have went a little bit faster, I think it's an impressive performance. And it's just one of those, and you saw her when the camera slowed down, she was pretty much saying, y'all don't play with me. That's part of the confident persona that she has. But she also has the talent and execution to be able to back it up. I was actually impressed with her first 30, 40 meters. Usually she's kind of behind with the pack, but this time she was a little bit ahead of some of them and with the pack. And as I've always said, when Usain Bolt was running, if Usain Bolt is with you, that's a problem. If he's behind you, it's a problem. But if he's with you, it's going to be over with as soon as he gets upright running. And Miss Sha'carri Richardson's, her top end is her frontside mechanics is one of the best I've ever seen. So she comes in at number 4, 10:83, open up her individual 100-meter season. Who knows if we'll see her again up until trial. She might just chill out. But she comes in at number 4. Number 3 goes to Mr. Josh Kerr in the mile, 3:45.34. I believe it was not only a world lead, but a national record for him. And obviously, you know how I feel about Jakob Ingebrigtsen. But this is what made this, why he came so far on our list as well, too, is because the back and forth between those two, right? And him being able to block out that and still come out and to perform and still run his race. You know a little bit more about the longer stuff. I'm still trying to figure out what the heck a mile is. But what did you think about this performance, and what stuck out to you in this one?
Yeah, I really like Kerr took the lead with about 600 to go, which is him saying, I believe in myself. I believe in my finish. It's not easy to take the lead that far out. Usually you take it 200 meters out, 150 to go, but for him to take it at 600 meters to go and say, you know what, I'm going to dominate from here on out. And that's exactly what he did. It shows where his confidence is at. Like you said, he's not letting the noise from, the jabs from Ingebrigtsen get to him. It's probably pushing him even further to run faster and to prove that he is the best. So this duel back and forth between Kerr and Ingebrigtsen is something that is fun for the sport, and I'm excited to see them to continue to duke it out. So
shout out to Josh Kerr, man. And if I remember correctly, well, I may not be correct, but this was also Ingebrigtsen's first race of the year.
First race in a long time, yeah.
So, and he ran that well.
Yeah, he did.
So the Olympics is going to be very, very exciting when we see these two line up again every time, and they're going to be better when we see them next, and be in better shape when we see them next, man. So, side question, when was the last time that this event, 1,500 mile, and was this exciting? These guys are trash talking like they're sprinters.
I love it though. I love it. It's something that the distance side needs. We're all so nice to each other. It's time to be a little mean. So
Josh Kerr, shout out to you, man. Number 3 on the list this week. Number 2 goes to someone in your event, Miss Keely Hodgkinson, 800 meters. She came and ran 1:55.78. I want to hear your thoughts on this. People don't want to hear about me. I want to hear your thoughts on this one.
When the gun went off, I was like, oh no, Keely's kind of out of it. She wasn't really up there with the first 2 runners. They may have came through the 456, and I would guess that Keely was about 57. So she nearly even split a 1:55.78. That is hard to do. She closed the best I've ever seen her close, and she crossed that line. You could tell she had an attitude like, I'm here and I want to win this Olympic gold. So she made a statement. She made a statement, and it's going to be fun to see how a thing answers that statement, because that's what everybody in the track and field world is waiting for. So shout out to Keely. We had to put her in the top 2 because that was impressive.
Does, playing devil's advocate here, does this make a thing look over and say, wait a minute, should she be worried, or should she be like, okay, cool?
Yeah, I think Keely opened up similar last year. And so I don't really know if a thing, hopefully she's not letting it get to her, but obviously she's seen it, she's heard about it, and I wouldn't say worried, but it's on her mind, of course. So, but still a long way till Paris. So we'll see.
Looking forward to seeing how it plays out. The 800 is one of those, on the women's side, again, one of those events, because of all the athletes there, you just want to make sure you watch it a little bit deeper, because it is very, very exciting. Miss Keely Hodgkinson, number 2 on our list. Number 1 goes to, drum roll, Miss Beatrice Chabet, 10K. That time looks ridiculous to me. 28 minutes, 54:14, world record. My back feels tight just reading that. Apart from the word impressive, what comes to mind for you?
Just dominating. I mean, she's the first woman ever under 29 minutes.
Wow.
And so she not only broke the world record, she crushed it. And yeah, I mean, I'm almost speechless because I can't imagine running for that long, that fast. But shout out to her. Distance runners go to Eugene, Oregon. They go to Pre to run fast. They set the race up for her to run fast. Didn't even think she was going to run this fast. I don't know, but she did. And she now has a world record and a nice check in her pocket. So shout out to her.
To put things into perspective, maybe you can give us a little more insight. Like the splits.
I don't know.
Okay, so
I have no idea. I'm sorry.
Because I wouldn't even know where to even begin. Like this, it looks far. It looks impressive, and the fact that she is the only woman to run 28 minutes, like that's, and track's been around for a while. Like this is very, very, very impressive, and it's kind of hard not to put her as number 1. But that's our top 10 performance list. We would love to know, who did we miss? Who would you add? Who should we take out? Let us know who would be on your list, who you would add honorable mention. Let us know in the comment section below. As we move forward into the next couple segments of the show, I felt like we should have a little bit of an introspective conversation in this episode. And it made me think about a question while I was on my workout this morning. If you could change anything from your career, what would you change? We're talking, high school, collegiate, pros, anything at all during your entire running career. Is there anything you would change, or maybe you wouldn't change anything?
Yeah, I would definitely change the amount of pressure I put on myself in college. Like it wasn't healthy. I definitely didn't like the sport anymore. And so I would have just chilled out a little bit in college, yes, I was a high school phenom and go to college and just continue to do my thing, just run. Like, it's not that serious, as serious as I was taking it. It wasn't healthy. And I think I would have just had a much more enjoyable and a better collegiate career if I would have just chilled out and just run, I don't have to run with the weight of the world on my shoulders. Just go out there, do my thing. So that is what I would have changed. My collegiate career and just the approach I took to it mentally. It wasn't healthy.
Yeah, for me, I think it would have went down to my collegiate decision. I think I would have went somewhere else. I really enjoyed Alabama, but anybody close to me knows some things that, definitely would have changed. And I think for me, I would have decommitted from Alabama and actually went to the Florida State University. But, that's part of it, right? Hindsight is 2020. But if there was anything that I would change in that time, it would be the collegiate wise. I would go to Florida State rather than Alabama. But I enjoyed my time at Alabama. It's still Roll Tide, but these are things that when you think about years later, you think about, man, I wonder what would have happened if I would have done that, and I think there are things that you can play around with and have questions about. And then there are things where you're just like, man, what if? But you don't want to live in what ifs. This is just hypothetical conversation. But that's what I would change. That is what you would change. Along my workout this morning, it made me think about another thing that we're going to be talking about. What's the hardest part about being a professional track and field athlete?
I think for me, it's that transition into being a pro. You just don't know what you don't know, and no one tells you. So you don't know that it's really only the top athletes that are making the money. You don't know how to pick an agent. You don't know how to pick a group. You don't know how hard it is to get into meets in Europe. And so your expectations are, I'm going to graduate. I'm going to sign a big deal. I'm going to get into diamond leagues. Like, you're just very naive and you don't know the real story. And so that was the hardest part for me. It was a shock my first few years. Like, wow, like they're not just throwing out money, and it is hard to get into the top races. And I don't know how to pick an agent. And so I wish there was a little bit more guidance, and hopefully we can give that to some collegiate athletes, even high school athletes who have those questions. But there's just not enough talk about what it looks like to turn pro if you're not the best of the best.
Yeah, I mean, track and field is never really, it can seem like it's a black and white thing, like when you're on the track or you're on the field. But then when you go on the business side of things, it's very gray. Like I remember talking to Trell Kimmons years ago. And at the time, I was number one in the world, well, number 2 in the world. And in the 60, and I remember talking to him and he was kind of just saying, he was like, man, Akeem, like back in my time, he's like, man, I got my contract off of running 6.5 and 10.2, 10.1. And he was like, he got a good, like it was a good number, but you don't know if you run fast, maybe nobody calls, right? Like you don't know what that situation is going to be like. And
you also don't know what a good contract is because no one shares how much they're making. And so you're tempted to just take whatever the shoe company offers you because you're like, well, I don't know if I can get better because no one is telling me what they're making. There's just no transparency. So,
and I think good contract is relative as well too. Like it's a little bit different for everybody. I don't think a thrower is ever going to get as much money as a sprinter. I don't think some field athletes are going to get as much as track athletes. And that's stuff that they don't tell you as well, too. You just assume because you're jumping, maybe you're jumping 850 or you're jumping 713 in the long jump. They may say that's great. I'm still going to give it to this guy who is 19 years old and he's running 9.9 or whatever the case may be, because there's really no real way to really know what the heck is happening and what's going on because nobody really shares certain things and everybody's kind of trying to figure out behind the scenes. That's why when you see the basketball and you see soccer and you see football, you have a gauge to say, okay, this guy was an all-star. He was defensive player of the year and this is how much money that he got. It's nothing like that in track and field. I think part of it too is like the embarrassment part of it too, where nobody really wants to talk about money because you feel like you should be paid more, but you're not. But maybe in your next negotiation, you get to a couple Olympics, you make a finals or world championships, and that could change things. So I think the hardest part about being a professional track athlete from a business standpoint could be the fact that sometimes you just don't know what the heck is right, what is wrong. I mean, I remember when I got my first check from competing and I saw the numbers missing from taxes, from agents. And I was like, wait a minute, this ain't my check. Like, this is not the number that I thought that I was going to get. And it can be a shock. I think the other thing that I want to add to is about the hardest part about being a professional track and field athlete is like the sacrifices. This can't just be a sport that you just kind of like it. If you kind of like it, man, go and do something else. It's not going to be worth it. And you won't know if it's worth it until you're far removed from it, where you can reflect and say, X, Y, Z, this and that. Maybe this lined up, this didn't. This is not a sport that you just want to half it. You got to make sure that your like is pretty close to love, because the ups and downs and the financial little gains to it is just, it's not an easy thing to want to be motivated to get up and to do every single day.
That's good.
So those are the things that I would say, and Chanelle would say, for any former professional track and field athletes or current track and field athletes, let us know your answer to this question as well. Before we close out the show, we got to close out with the Run Your Race topic. Last week was a little, wasn't as serious. And this week, we're going to continue that same theme a little bit. Other than your event, the 8 and the 1 for me, what do you think is the hardest event to train for?
You're going to have to go first because you threw me off with the other than your event, because I would have picked my event. So I need some time to think.
Oh, you don't have much time, but I'm going to give you a little bit. For me, I think about when I used to watch the 400-meter hurdlers train. And, you obviously got to train as a 4 athlete, but then you got some barriers with the hurdles. I remember I used to see Joshua Anderson training, man. He used to be doing 500s and 600s. And then, hurdles would be set up in the center of the field, and he'd have to walk from the 600, finish that, 2 minutes, go over the hurdles in the straight line, then take 3 minutes and then do another. I said, that's ridiculous. I don't want to be. So I would say that, or I would say what Miss Beatrice Chabet ran, 10K. Like, how do you, what's that mileage like? How do you, for me, it's not just the mileage, it's how do you mentally stay in it for that long? Like, I would be bored. And because I would be bored, my mind would take my body out of it, and I would just stop and say, man, I'm gonna just get a smoothie and call it a day. So I would say the 400-meter hurdles or the 10K, because, man, it one is physically grueling. They're both physically grueling, but I think the 10K is mentally tormenting.
I'm actually gonna go with your event, the 100. Not from like a everyday in practice is painful and I have so much lactic, but the technical aspect of it, how you guys put it together, the start, it's just beautiful when it comes together, but I know it's hard for it to come together. And so a lot of respect for short sprinters. Again, it's not like the 8 where you're dying every day in training, but it's hard in a different way. It's hard in a technical way. You really have to put it together on that day in the race. And I think that's really hard to do. So
it's definitely not easy to drop any time in the sprints, but that's it. Episode 14 is finished. Let us know if you have any thoughts, any comments, anything you'd like to share in the comment section below. And if you have any questions that you would like to ask myself or Chanelle, please drop those as well too. And we'll make sure we add that into the show for next week's episode. So with all that being said, don't forget to like, share a comment, and share this with a friend, and definitely subscribe to the channel. And we'll definitely see you next time.